to my channel. Today, as you can see, or you will probably be able to hear throughout the video, I do feel a little sick. I've had a little bit of a cold, but let's leave that aside. Today's topic is very exciting and very interesting because I truly feel like I found something that is very similar to the Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance palette. And if you've been following me here on YouTube, you know that this is my favorite palette of all time. I've already hit pan on one of the shades, my favorite shade of this palette, and I believe that the Wet n Wild palette is a beautiful alternative. Yes, the Anastasia colors are more pigmented. They blend with a little bit less work. You do have to put a little bit more work when you use these eyeshadows, but overall it is completely worth it because for the little bit more work that you have to put, I mean, this is $5. I believe this is $42, $43, and the price difference really is insane. Now don't get me wrong, this is not going to replace the Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette. This is a beautiful product and alternative, but again, it doesn't have the power and the punch that this palette has for me. You can create very similar looks. I did it today. You can create probably identical looks, but the simple fact that this would take me less time to work with makes me lean towards this product because I do have two little boys who constantly require my attention, and I like to apply my makeup fast. So this is totally worth it, but again, it takes a little bit more work, and because of that reason, I do prefer the Anastasia palette. Again, this just has my heart. It is my favorite palette of all time. I believe it has quality, pigmentation, everything that an eyeshadow should have. But this one is affordable, therefore I can use it every day and I won't have to worry about spending my eyeshadows, about hitting pan. So again, for $5, this is a wonderful, wonderful find, a wonderful product. If you don't want to splurge on the Anastasia palette, this is completely worth it. I didn't swatch all the shades for you. The Anastasia palette does have a little bit more of a color range, but I swatched the colors that I either found interesting or that I'm going to be using on today's tutorial. I don't really care about a swatch as long as it blends and it works well on my eyes. Again, I do hope that if you try this palette, you love it. It is very similar to this one and it is completely worth it. This is definitely going to be a palette that I am going to be using on an everyday basis. This is the type of palette that I use on special occasions because I don't want to run through it as fast as I know I'm running through it. But this beautiful alternative is definitely something that I can grab on an everyday basis without feeling guilty because it's too expensive to wear. Without any delays, let me get to the swatches so that after that you can get to the eye tutorial. So let's not waste any time. Let's start playing with makeup. Let me start by showing you swatches. This comes from the Anastasia Beverly Hills palette. It is the color Burnt Orange. This one comes from the Wet n Wild palette and it is the color 10. This is Raw Sienna from the Anastasia palette. This is color 5 from the Wet n Wild palette. This is Antique Bronze from the Anastasia palette. This is the color 7 from the Wet n Wild palette. This is the color Red Ochre from the Anastasia palette. This is the color 6 from the Wet n Wild palette. And this is the color Riogar from the Anastasia palette. So for this video, I am going to be using different brushes. We don't want the powders or the pigments to mix. I will be using these brushes for the Wet n Wild palette, and I am going to use these brushes for the Anastasia palette. This brush is one of the new Wet n Wild brushes, and as the video advances, I'll tell you how I feel about it. So very quickly, I just want to let you know that this is going to be the Anastasia side, and this right here is going to be the Wet n Wild side. I am going to start by applying the color Raw Sienna on my crease. And again, the Anastasia side would be this one. Now for the Wet n Wild side, we are taking the transition color number 10, this one right here. So basically we'll see if these two palettes can achieve the same look. And I don't think I'm having any problems blending at all. I do wish the brush was probably a little bit more packed, but other than that, the eyeshadow is blending very nicely. So far, I have the color number 10 from the Wet n Wild palette, and I have the color Raw Sienna from the Anastasia Beverly Hills palette. Now for the Anastasia side, I am going to take the color Red Ochre in this brush right here. Now I am going to take the color 7 with this brush right here, and I'm going to apply that on the Wet n Wild side. Now for the lid shade, I am going to be using my fingers, and for the Anastasia side, I will be applying the color Antique Bronzed. For the Wet n Wild side, I am going to be applying the color number 5. And this is what we have so far. Now I am going to be taking my fluffy blending brush, and once again I'm going to take the color Raw Sienna for the Anastasia side. I'm going to take a very little tiny bit, just the tip of the brush, and I'm going to make sure that everything is blended. I will start in the outer corner so that most of the color deposit can stay in that area, and then I'm going to slowly drag it in. And for the Wet n Wild side, I am going to be using the transition color number 10. And again, I'm going to start on the outer corner, and I'm slowly going to bring the color in. And so far, this is what we have. Now we work on our lower lash line. For my lower lash line, I am going to start with the Anastasia side, and I will be applying the color Raw Sienna. the Wet n Wild side, I will be applying the color 10. And again, just very tight and close to that lash line. And as you can see, this is your final look. Anastasia, Wet n Wild. And to me, they pretty much look the same. They look very, very similar. Let me close my eyes very quickly so you can check out the look a little further. I am going to be applying the rest of my makeup off camera, and I'll see you in a second. We've come to the end of this video. Hopefully you found the tutorial and the mini review helpful. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Hit the bell button for notifications. And don't forget to leave your requests. Let me know what you would like to see next. Would you like to see a drugstore tutorial? Would you like to see an eye tutorial? Would you like to see me as the Anastasia palette, the Wet n Wild's palette? Let me know. Anyhow, hopefully I'll see you around next time. Have a good day, evening, night.